Imagine a very ordinary morning. You wake up, brew a cup of coffee, pick up your phone like you do every day, and then, buried among familiar headlines, you see a line of text that makes your heart skip a beat. Nvidia just lost $589 billion in market value. In a single day, not a year, not during a global financial crisis. Just overnight. In that moment, I sat there in silence for a few seconds. Not because I own Nvidia stock, but because I realized something far more unsettling. If one of the most powerful companies in America, a symbol of artificial intelligence, of the future of technology, can see hundreds of billions of dollars evaporate simply because of a name most of us had never even heard before yesterday, then the real question is this: what is changing beneath our feet? And where exactly are we standing in the middle of this shockwave? The market didn't collapse because of war, not because of terrorism, not because banks failed. It shook because of a Chinese artificial intelligence company. At that moment, I asked myself, and maybe you should ask yourself too, if the global technological order is being rewritten, then where are money, jobs, and our lives actually headed? This video isn't meant to panic you, but if you've ever believed that the big power games between the United States and China don't affect you, then it may be time to look again. Because what just happened wasn't an accident. It was the first signal that an old era is coming to a close, and a new one, harsher, more unforgiving, is beginning to open. If you've stayed with me until this moment, you probably feel it too. The world we're familiar with is changing far faster than we're being told. I didn't make this video to scare you. I made it so you won't be caught off guard. If you want to keep following the quiet shifts that shape your money, your work, and your future, consider subscribing. Not for sensational headlines, but to understand what's really happening behind them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think American companies should continue tying themselves to China? Or is it time to pull back even at a high cost? Leave a comment. There are no easy answers here, and every perspective is worth hearing. In the next video, I'll go deeper into a very practical question. Which industries, which technologies, and which people may actually benefit from this turbulent period? Who is preparing ahead, and who may be left behind? The story between the U.S. and China isn't over. It's just entered a new chapter. And if you want to understand that chapter from the very beginning, I'll see you in the next video. As the numbers worsened and anxiety crept from families into government offices, Beijing knew time was running out. Staying silent any longer would come at a heavy price. So in late 2024, China did something it had avoided for years. It pushed the button on large-scale fiscal stimulus. A massive local government debt restructuring package worth trillions of yuan was rolled out. Money flowed into the system. Liquidity was loosened. The stock market jumped back to life. Headlines followed. Markets rebound. Confidence returns. But that's the view from far away. From the perspective of an ordinary family, the feeling is very different. They don't own stocks. They don't track market indexes every day. Their wealth isn't on a trading screen, it's tied up in an apartment that's losing value. Markets rise, but the money doesn't reach them. The sense of insecurity remains. Bills still need to be paid. The future still looks uncertain. For many people, the stimulus feels like a powerful painkiller. It dulls the pain for now, but it doesn't cure the underlying illness. And Beijing knows this. They're not just buying time for the markets. They're buying time for confidence. The question is how long this medicine will keep working, and whether, once it wears off, the fear will return even stronger than before. There's a belief that has lived in many minds for a long time, that America is always ahead, that American technology always leads, that betting on America is always safe. That belief wasn't entirely wrong, but today, it's no longer absolute. What just happened in AI wasn't an accident. It was a reminder that no position is untouchable, no advantage lasts forever. And this doesn't just affect big corporations or billion-dollar funds. It reaches directly into ordinary life. If you're a worker, technological change will decide how long your job survives. If you run a business, costs, supply chains, and markets can shift after a single political decision. If you're a consumer, prices, choices, and technological freedom won't look the same. A more expensive phone, a restricted app, a career opportunity that disappears without you ever knowing why. This isn't a distant future. It's happening slowly, but it's real. The most dangerous thing isn't change. It's believing you won't be affected. The world has entered a phase where technology, politics, and economics are fused together. Every major decision leaves small but deep marks on everyday life. And in this era, what matters most isn't which side you're on. It's whether you've realized the rules of the game have changed. Because when the rules change, the ones who don't notice usually pay first. On paper, China just posted GDP growth of around 5%. That sounds fine. For many countries, it would even be something to envy. But in China, 5% doesn't bring peace of mind. It feels more like a forced smile, hiding exhaustion underneath. If you step away from official reports and policy meetings and look at everyday life, the picture changes. People are more cautious, more quiet, more anxious. For generations, real estate wasn't just housing. It was a dream, a lifetime of savings, a promise parents passed on to their children's stability. In China, most household wealth sits inside concrete apartments. And then, the market began to collapse. Property investment plunged. Projects stalled. Abandoned buildings stood silently. Reminders of shattered expectations. For ordinary people, this wasn't just a drop in statistics. It was the feeling of losing solid ground. The fear that a lifetime of savings could simply disappear. They stop spending. They stop investing. They stop thinking long-term. Restaurants grow quieter. Shops turn off their lights earlier. Family conversations increasingly circle around the same question. What happens tomorrow? And when public confidence erodes, even an economy that grows on paper becomes fragile. Because an economy doesn't run on capital and policy alone. It runs on the trust of hundreds of millions of ordinary people. That is what truly worries China right now. Not the GDP number, but the quiet fear spreading through everyday households. When Donald Trump returned to the political stage, he brought back a very familiar message. America must come first. And China, once again, moved to the center of confrontation. The idea of imposing a 60% tariff on Chinese goods wasn't floated as a vague threat. It was stated plainly, clearly, like a preemptive strike. A declaration that made the business world go silent. Because tariffs aren't abstract ideas discussed in negotiation rooms. They reach directly into daily life, into the products you hold, into the price you pay at checkout. The most important question isn't how China will respond. It's who will actually pay the price. Apple is a clear example. Its products are sold worldwide, but most are made in China. If tariffs rise sharply, that cost doesn't disappear. It goes straight into retail prices. And the final payer is the consumer. Tesla isn't immune either. China was once a major growth engine. But sales are slowing, while domestic Chinese EV makers grow more aggressive and competitive. Nike, a brand tied to global sports culture, is also caught in the crossfire. Its supply chain runs through Asia. Its markets stretch across America and the world. One policy shift, and the entire system can flip upside down. For major corporations, this is a strategic problem. For workers, it's a very real fear. Higher prices, uncertain jobs, companies hesitant to expand. Economic war has no gunfire, but it leaves quiet wounds, spreading from executive boardrooms down to factories, shops, and households. And when political decisions are made at the top, ordinary people on both sides of the ocean are the first to feel their weight. For decades, the relationship between the United States and China has been like two people walking together on a narrow bridge. They don't truly trust each other, but both know that if one lets go, the other could fall as well. America buys goods from China. From clothing and electronics to the tiny chips and components buried deep inside the phone you're holding right now. In return, China buys U.S. Treasury bonds, holds U.S. dollars, and helps sustain the global financial system. A relationship that is both cold and dependent, both cooperative and suspicious. In Washington, leaders constantly talk about national security, technological risk, and China's rise as a strategic threat. Yet, in everyday life, Americans remain accustomed to cheap, convenient products made on the other side of the Pacific. In Beijing, officials speak of self-reliance, the Chinese dream, and resisting Western containment. But for years, China's economy has grown on exports to the U.S., on capital, technology, and access to the very market they've long viewed with caution. The world's two largest economies are like massive gears locked together. When they turn in sync, the entire system runs. But when one gear slips, the whole machine begins to shake violently. The problem is that since the pandemic, that distrust is no longer hidden beneath the surface. It's showing up in policy decisions, legislation, and increasingly hardline rhetoric. Americans are beginning to ask whether they should continue placing their technological future in the hands of a strategic rival. The Chinese are worrying whether the door to the world's largest market could suddenly slam shut. And while politicians argue and economic numbers continue to dance across reports, the truth is that both sides are trapped in a relationship they no longer trust. No one wants to leave first, but everyone fears that staying too long may come at an even higher cost later. January 23, 2025. No flashy launch. No bright stage lights. No polished Silicon Valley promises. Quietly, a Chinese company called DeepSeek released an AI model named R1. At first, almost no one noticed, except a small group of engineers, researchers, and people who truly understood what was happening behind the screen. Then it spread. People tested it, shared it, compared it, and a common realization emerged quickly. This model wasn't inferior to the best the U.S. had to offer. What shocked people wasn't just the quality. It was how DeepSeek achieved it. They said it cost only a few $1,000,000. They said it used far fewer chips. They said it was built in an almost unbelievable amount of time. Meanwhile, American tech giants had spent billions, built massive data centers, burned cash as if there were no limits. Then the market reacted. No debate. No waiting for every detail to be verified. Nvidia collapsed. Hundreds of billions of dollars vanished in a single day. Not because Nvidia did anything wrong, but because the story Wall Street had believed for years suddenly cracked. If AI no longer requires massive spending, if it no longer needs enormous infrastructure, if a company restricted from cutting-edge technology can still break through, then where exactly does America's advantage lie? In Silicon Valley boardrooms, the atmosphere changed fast. The usual confidence disappeared, replaced by silence, by exchanged glances that said everyone understood something big had just happened. An old word resurfaced. Sputnik. When the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, America realized it was no longer unquestionably ahead. DeepSeek created a similar feeling, not because China has won, but because America just realized the AI race is far more dangerous than it ever thought. And in that moment, this stopped being just a technology story. It became a story about trust, about position, and about who gets to write the next chapter of the future. Before the DeepSeek shock had time to settle, a larger question began forming among those who have watched the world long enough. What happens next? No one has a crystal ball. But from the pieces now falling into place, three paths are starting to emerge. And whichever path is taken will shape the lives of billions for years to come. The first scenario is the one many fear most. An escalating trade war. Tariffs move from threats to reality. Retaliation follows retaliation. Global supply chains stretch and then snap. In this world, large corporations shrink. Small businesses struggle. Workers lose jobs. Prices rise quietly but relentlessly. There's no single explosive crisis, just a slow erosion. Each month, life gets a little more expensive. Opportunities narrow. Confidence fades day by day. The second scenario looks very different. AI becomes cheaper, faster, and more accessible. If DeepSeek isn't an exception but the beginning, AI could spread like electricity or the internet once did. Small businesses gain powerful tools. Workers become more productive. Ideas once limited by cost suddenly get a chance to live. Competition doesn't disappear, but opportunity spreads wider. Winners aren't just those with the most capital, but those who adapt fastest. Then there's the third scenario, quieter, but the most dangerous. A divided world. Not with iron walls, but invisible borders of technology, data, standards, and trust. The U.S. and its allies go one way. China and its partners go another. Technology is no longer neutral. Every product, every platform carries political weight. Companies must choose sides. Consumers live inside closed ecosystems, and the flexibility that once powered globalization slowly disappears. 3 scenarios, none perfect, none free of pain. And the most unsettling part is that the world may not choose just one. It may slide through all 3 piece by piece, phase by phase. The question is no longer what will happen. It's how ready we are to live in a future that's changing direction this fast.